Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1520B, and today's date is March 13th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Storm is Upon Us, and It's Getting Stronger. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, today, the U.S. House Intel Committee, they threw in the towel on the Russian collusion thing. After 14 months, they couldn't find anything. There was no evidence of collusion. There was no evidence of conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Nothing was found whatsoever. And I don't think that Robert Mueller is going to find anything either, because if he did find something, it'd be plastered all over the corporate media. He'd be making a really big deal. He wouldn't be coming out with, oh, Manafort lied or this person lied to the FBI, especially when the FBI continually lies to the American people. That is not Russian collusion. Everything that he is bringing up is little tiny nothings that nobody would even care about. And the only reason they're making it a really big deal is because they have nothing. They have no evidence. They have no proof. His entire time investigating this was a waste of time. And we knew this from the beginning because CNN, through Project Veritas, admitted it was a nothing burger. It was completely made up. But everyone went along with it because they needed to get Trump out of office. That was their main objective. We see the storm is getting stronger. Trump is now removing certain individuals from different positions within the White House. Now, when he first came into the White House, yes, there were Goldman Sachs people. Yes, there were certain individuals, in his administration. This was set up by still those in power who said, listen, these are the people that you need. So he took them on. Now what we're seeing is a turnover where he is setting up his own cabinet. Is it complete yet? Absolutely not. He needs to go through many more rounds to weed a lot more people out. But we can see right now that Rex Tillerson, he is gone. Undersecretary Steve Goldstein is gone. We know that Cohen is gone. And there are many other individuals that are going to be removed from all of this. Now, what's very interesting is that Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was out there and he was blaming Russia for the chemical attack in the UK. Now, of course, there's no evidence whatsoever, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But it looks like right after that tweet, all of a sudden, he was fired. Now, Tillerson is being replaced by CIA Director Mike Pompeo. And now, since Pompeo has moved into his position, there's the Director of the CIA position that is completely open, and that is being filled by Gina Haspel. She's the current Deputy Director of the CIA. Now, do I think these are two good choices for these offices? Absolutely not. And Haspel, by the way, if confirmed by the Senate, would be the very first female head of the CIA. The one thing that we're looking at here is the background of these individuals. Do they fit into Trump's plan? And I don't think they do. Edward Snowden was out there, and he tweeted that the new CIA director was a key part of the torture program and its illegal cover-up. Her name was on the top secret order demanding the destruction of tapes to prevent them from being seen by Congress. Incredible. He then noted that the new CIA director, Haspel, who tortured some folks, probably can't travel to the EU to meet other spy chiefs without facing arrest due to a complaint to Germany's federal prosecutor. And Julian Assange was out there, and he was tweeting about Mike Pompeo because, he wanted to get Julian Assange, wanted to get WikiLeaks. And I think these individuals are being put into these positions to expose them, to eventually get rid of them, and to clean the entire department out. I don't think he was just going to go in and say, you're fired, because they would make a really big stink about it. And I think he's using a strategy of bringing them up. There's going to be questions about what they've done in the past. The Senate's going to ask them a lot of questions, and they might even turn them down. So we'll have to watch and see how this is. But I believe this is a strategy to basically clean all these individuals out, just like he's cleaned the others out. And I think this is going to continue on. Trump is also laying the groundwork to introduce the death penalty for drug dealers. Now, if this is absolutely true, he's kind of following in the footsteps of Duterte in the Philippines. And when I think when I hear this and I see this, this is not to get the low-level drug dealer. I think he's going after the CIA, the intelligence community, the biggest drug dealers in the world. And I think this is why he's laying the groundwork to introduce this, because remember, they operate the poppy field in Afghanistan. They sell the opium across the world for covert operations, drug smuggling between here and Mexico. And the war on drugs was the war on the CIA's competition. And they're the biggest drug dealers. And I think this is why he most likely is pushing this agenda forward. Now, it looks like the poisoning of Skripal is starting to heat up right now. And we see that the UK, Theresa May, is out there. She is blaming Russia, saying that they have to prove their innocence instead of them proving that they're guilty. And they really don't have that much evidence. The only thing they have, where Theresa May is out there saying that we know it's Russia, is the poison that was used was created by the Soviet Union. It's dubbed Novichok and was used in the poisoning of Sergei Skripal and his daughter. And May demanded that Russia prove details of the program, saying otherwise London would consider the poisoning an attack directed by the Russian government. Now, Lavrov is out there saying that, listen, if you would like to pursue this, you need to go through the proper channels. The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons will handle this. Russia and Britain are members. Let's do this. So let's look at the evidence that the UK has. We know that Sergei Skripal and his daughter, they were poisoned with a military-grade nerve agent of a type developed by the Soviet Union. The nerve agent was a part of a group of agents known as Novichok. Russia has previously produced the agent and would still be capable of doing so. The British government assesses that Russia views some defectors as legitimate targets. The British government concluded that it is highly likely that Russia was responsible for the act against Sergei Skripal. And Theresa May went on to say the following: this was either a direct act by the Russian state against the United Kingdom, or the Russian government lost control of the nerve agent and let it fall into the hands of others. Now, a lot of this seems a little ridiculous. First of all, Novichok, newcomers in English, are a zoo of chemical warfare agents that were developed in the Soviet Union in the 70s and 80s. Some of the newcomers are said to be highly toxic. The existence of these chemical agents was disclosed in 1992. Russia joined the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development and Production, Stockpiling, and Use of Chemical Weapons, and on their destruction in 1997. It has since, unlike the U.S., destroyed all leftover stocks from the Soviet Union chemical weapons program. It does not produce chemical weapons. These agents and their formulas are not exclusively Russian knowledge or product. One of the key manufacturing sites was the Soviet State Scientific Research Institute for Organic Chemistry and Technology in Uzbekistan. Now, the formulas for the various Novichok agents are not a Russian secret. The US, the UK know how to make these. The Porton Down Chemical Weapon Laboratory of the British military is only 8 miles away from Salisbury, where Skripals were allegedly poisoned. The British government claims the Porton Down identified the agent allegedly used on the Skripals. The laboratory is surely also capable of producing such stuff, just like other laboratories in other countries are able to do. So we can see right now that Russia is not the only country that can produce this, and actually they're not even producing it. It was a Soviet Union chemical that was produced back then. Other countries can produce it. Other individuals can have it, and other people can use it. It doesn't make sense that Russia was going to use this. Actually, Skripal was involved with the Steele dossier, which means the Clintons are involved, which means Christopher Steele is involved, which means there's an investigation going on with these individuals. So why would the Russians care? And think about this. May is out there saying that, well, Russia sees some defectors as legitimate targets. Well, Skripal was living openly in the UK since 2010. Why kill him now? What would be the motive? There is no motive. This is a made-up story. And they're trying to put the blame on Russia. Now, we see out of the Daily Mail, Theresa May might use cyber attacks to retaliate against Russia. I mean, listen to what they're doing here. They're trying to create an incident. That's the whole point of this. They're trying to push an agenda for war. And remember, they're going to create chaos, and I'm talking about the deep state, all over the place. I think they're going to do it in the Middle East. I think they're doing it right now. We might even see an event here in the United States coming up very, very soon. We see Defense Secretary Jim Mattis. He's visiting Afghanistan on Tuesday to meet senior U.S. and Afghan officials and discuss both the military campaign and peeling off some members of the Taliban to pursue a peace deal with the Afghan government. Now, this is an unannounced visit. It comes 2 weeks after Afghan President Ghani made the offer to the Taliban without preconditions to end the war. And the Taliban said last month that it is open to reaching a political settlement and negotiation. There's also an oil pipeline that they're building, and the Taliban would benefit from this. And we can see that Mattis is there to help with these peace talks. No, he is not there to create a war or to separate them, because what we're seeing right now is they're using a completely different strategy. Ghani said at the palace that Trump, his new South Asia strategy, adopted in August, allows Afghan officials to tell their people that talking about peace with the Taliban is not tantamount to surrender or to collapse, which means he's changed the policy of Obama. The policy now is you can have peace talks. Remember, the deep state, they see things in black and white. There's no gray. There is no peace. You either do it our way or there's a war. But as you can see in North Korea, guess what? We're seeing peace. We're seeing peace talks. They've already happened, but this is the show for the rest of the world, for the corporate media, but pretty much everything else has been ironed out in North Korea. We see right now that the CIA, they are pushing the idea that Syria once again is using chemical weapons, even though they have no evidence whatsoever. Nikki Haley is out there saying, we're going to be going into Syria if the UN Security Council can't make up their mind. We're just going in and invading. No, they're not. The deep state right now, they're preparing and getting ready for another false flag in Syria. They're meeting in Jordan. This is where they usually train their moderate rebels. The program has been canceled. The funding has been stopped. But that doesn't mean they don't have other funds to pay the paid mercenaries. Of course they do. And remember, the deep state is still trying to push their agenda. And Russia is saying, listen, if the deep state goes ahead and fires upon Russian troops, there's going to be problems. And Russia just doesn't come out and fire back. I mean, look, Turkey at the time shot down one of their planes. Did they go all out on Turkey? No. There were reports that the U.S. was firing upon Russians. Did they just react and start fighting? No. If the deep state decides to go after Russia, Russia is not going to go and attack. That's not the way they operate. This is put out there by the corporate media, the propaganda. And also, Russia doesn't want to look weak. And they're trying to build this up to make it seem like Russia is going to start war, which they're not. But what we see happening right now is the storm is building. And the storm is headed towards the deep state. And a lot of their individuals are being removed from Trump's administration. There's a lot more to go. Their plans are being stopped at every turn. The country is being prepared for an economic transition. And I think eventually what's going to happen is Xi Jinping, Russia, the United States, they're going to take control of the private Western central banking system. Putin has already done this. He controls the central bank, the government, not the other way around. He calls the shots. This is why Russia has become the enemy. This is why Iran is the enemy. This is why Syria is the enemy. Any country that doesn't have a private Western central bank that's controlled by the Rothschilds, they have become the enemy. So what we're seeing right now is the deep state is preparing for that next dead cat bounce, that next event. And I think it's going to be multiple events. It's not just going to be one. And we can see right now that everything is in motion. And it's going to be a very, very intense rest of this month and going into the rest of this year, because the deep state, they're being pushed further and further back into a corner. And once they reach the tipping point, well, they're going to come out and they're going to do something. And they're going to do something much larger than anyone would ever expect. And I'm talking about the event of all events. Now, if you want to hear the uncensored portion of this report, just go over to Steemit. That is steemit.com/@X22 Report. You can just go to steemit.com, type in X22 Report, and it will come up, and you will see the uncensored version of this report. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.